What's up, Broncos country? Did you see what happened in the last 3 weeks? Our defense, which should be the terror of the league, has been a real disappointment. But before you start panicking, I have the exact recipe for what needs to change now to get our defense back on track. And look, the changes I'm going to talk about here are so urgent that if they're not made by Monday against Cincinnati, the season could completely derail. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to reveal exactly which players need to come out of the starting lineup, which rookies are being wasted on the bench, and why Vance Joseph's career is hanging by a thread. First, let me ask you something. How many of you expected our defense to be dominant this year? I know everyone here in Broncos country had sky-high expectations. After all, we had signed important pieces. We had talented young players coming up, and defensive coordinator Vance Joseph was even being considered for head coaching positions with other franchises. But reality hit hard in the first 3 weeks. Even with the slight improvement against the Los Angeles Chargers, the fundamental problems remain glaring. And when I say glaring, that's literally it. Anyone who understands a little bit about football can see where the holes are in our defense. What frustrates me most, and I'm sure you're feeling this too, is that we have talents on the roster who are being wasted while players who clearly aren't performing continue to be starters week after week. It's like the coaching staff is watching a different movie than the rest of us. The first and most urgent change that needs to happen involves our linebacker position. And here I'm going to talk about a player we all respect a lot, but who unfortunately isn't delivering what the team needs, Alex Singleton. Singleton, who is coming back from a serious ACL injury that practically ended his 2024 season, is simply not the same player we knew. And look, this isn't his fault. Injuries like that are brutal, especially for a player who's already approaching 32 years old. What we're seeing on the field is a player who has lost the mobility necessary to be effective both in run defense and pass coverage. Singleton was always known for his ability to attack downhill, to come down with speed to stop runs. But even in that area that was his strength, he's below expectations. And here's the most painful point. With Dre Greenlaw now on injured reserve, our depth at linebacker became even more limited. This makes the decision to remove Singleton from the starting lineup even more complicated, but at the same time, more necessary. The proposed change here is clear. Justin Sternad needs to take on the role that Singleton is occupying. Sternad has shown a significantly superior level of play and is much better adapted for the function that Joseph wants executed. The problem is that this creates a hole in the position that Greenlaw occupied, so we have two viable options to solve this tactical puzzle. The first option would be to promote Karina Reed, an undrafted rookie who was kept on the main roster precisely for his ability on special teams and coverage. The second option would involve promoting Lavelle Bailey from the practice squad to the active roster, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Family, the level of play that Singleton is presenting is not just bench-worthy. It's from a player who could be released if his contract allowed it. It hurts to say, but it's the reality of what we're seeing on Sundays. The second critical change that needs to happen immediately involves our young talents who are being wasted on the bench. I'm talking specifically about rookie Syvion Jones on the defensive line and Quay Robinson as a pass-rushing linebacker. Jones has been inactive for the first 3 weeks, and this is a serious strategic mistake. We need to know if he can be the solution to replace John Franklin Myers next season, or if we're going to need to look for alternatives in the market. And we won't find that out with him watching games from the bench. The argument I hear from coaches is that rookies have difficulties in run defense. But guess what? Our run defense is already a disaster with veterans on the field. So why not give the young guy a chance who can bring new energy and growth potential? Meanwhile, Jordan Jackson continues to be a constant problem on the defensive line. His level of play is also below acceptable, so why not make the substitution? Activate Jones, give him a chance to show his worth, and see if he can improve our run defense, even if he's thrown to the wolves. Quay Robinson is another piece that's being criminally underutilized. Nick Saban said he was the best special teams player he ever coached at Alabama. Nick Saban people, and our coverage units have been inconsistent in the first few weeks. Robinson has enough coverage ability to be effective in simulated pressures and can add more ability to rush the central gaps. Basically, he could do what we expected from Drew Sanders before injury put Sanders on reserve. The third change, which might be the most controversial, concerns Vance Joseph himself and his resistance to making necessary adjustments. Joseph entered the season being considered as a head coaching candidate for other franchises. But this possibility is rapidly disappearing with the performances of the first 3 weeks. The problem isn't necessarily the defensive system itself, but the stubbornness in keeping players who clearly aren't performing and the reluctance to give opportunities to young talents. Joseph needs to show flexibility and courage to make difficult changes, even if it means admitting that some initial decisions were wrong. And look, Broncos country, I understand that making changes mid-season is complicated, especially when we don't have a bye week or mini-bye week after a Thursday game for recovery. But this is where great organizations separate themselves from mediocre ones: the ability to recognize problems quickly and act to correct them. I'll give you a practical example to understand the urgency. We're going into Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that has offensive capability to massacre us if our defense isn't working. If we continue with the same formations, the same players in the same positions, Joe Burrow and company will have a field day against us. But if we implement these changes, if we give the young players chances to show their worth, if we put players in positions where they can be more effective, we have a real chance to surprise. And a strong performance against Cincinnati could be the turning point our defense needs to take off this season. If you're true Broncos country, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any play. Hit like if you agree these changes are urgent. What frustrates me most about this whole situation is that we have the necessary resources to make these changes. Reed is on the roster, Bailey is on the practice squad and can be promoted, Jones and Robinson are healthy and ready to play. It's not a question of not having options, it's a question of having the courage to use these options. If I were betting, I'd say Vance Joseph is resisting these changes out of professional pride. Nobody likes to admit their initial decisions were wrong. But great defensive coordinators are defined precisely by this ability to adapt and course correct when necessary. So I'm going to make a direct appeal here. Vance, if you're watching, it's time to show why you deserve to be considered for bigger positions. Make the changes that need to be made. Give chances to the young players. Recognize when veterans aren't performing. Be flexible, be courageous, be the coordinator we know you can be. Just imagine a defense with Sternad more mobile at linebacker, Jones bringing new energy to the defensive line, Robinson adding versatility in pass rush, and Singleton off the field where he can no longer be exploited by opposing offenses. Wouldn't that be a complete transformation of our defense? And the timing couldn't be better. We have an extra week of preparation because of Monday Night Football. Enough time to integrate these changes, to work on new combinations, to prepare the young players for their opportunities. Cincinnati comes to Denver with a powerful offense, but also with their own vulnerabilities. If we can put consistent pressure on Joe Burrow, if we can stop their runs effectively, if we can force long third downs, we have a real chance to dominate that game. But this only happens if we have the courage to make the necessary changes now. We can't wait another 2-3 weeks to see if things magically improve on their own. In professional football, seasons are defined by courageous decisions made at the right moments. Broncos country has always been about doing what's necessary to win, not about maintaining the status quo for comfort. From the days of John Elway as a player to our 2015 defense, we've always been an organization that's not afraid of changes when they're necessary to achieve excellence. It's exactly this spirit that needs to return now. We can't be afraid to hurt feelings if it means improving our performance. We can't be afraid to give chances to young players if veterans aren't delivering results. Monday Night Football against Cincinnati will be the perfect test for these changes. Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense are sophisticated enough to exploit any weakness, but they also represent the type of challenge that can galvanize our defense if we have the right pieces in the right places. Imagine the energy that Jones can bring to a national Monday Night Football, hungry to prove he deserves to be on that stage. Imagine Robinson making spectacular tackles on special teams while adding unexpected pressure on defense. Imagine Sternad finally playing in the position where he can maximize his abilities. Broncos country has always been about courage, about doing what's necessary to win, about not accepting mediocrity when excellence is possible. That's exactly what we need now. Courage to make changes, wisdom to recognize when they're necessary, and determination to execute them even when they're difficult. Our season isn't lost, but it's at a critical point where the next decisions will define our trajectory. If you agree these changes are necessary, if you believe our defense can be much better than it has shown, then it's time to pressure for them to happen. So what's up, Denver Broncos family? Which of these three changes do you think should happen first? Do you think Vance Joseph will have the courage to make the necessary adjustments? Or will we see another week of the same formations that aren't working? Comment your opinions, like if the video was useful, and share with other Broncos country members who need to see this analysis. Until the next play, family,